Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start our lecture with clinico-anatomical problem, clinical case. Pay attention, dear students, because this is very important topic from examination point of view. So each and every sentence of this topic is very important. Okay, so pay attention. Wherever you feel problem in understanding, you can text me. I will clarify your doubts. So let us begin. A 55-year-old female complained to her family physician of hard painless lump in the upper and outer portion of her right breast. Breast here is nothing but the mammary gland in female. The examination of the breast revealed pudgy orange. Mark my word over here, pudgy orange, appearance of the skin, loss of mobility of the breast, and retraction of the nipple. The examination of the axilla revealed the enlargement of axillary lymph nodes. The X-ray of vertebral column revealed irregular shadow in the vertebral bodies of thoracic 6 and thoracic 7 vertebrae, T6 and T7 vertebrae. Then she was diagnosed as a case of the breast cancer. See, this is a clinico-anatomical problem. So the next slide will be the questions I will be giving. So at the end of the lecture, we will be able to solve this problem. Okay. So in this slide, the important thing here is this one, the pudgy orange appearance of the skin of the breast. Okay, remember this. I will explain in detail what is pudgy orange appearance of the skin. So these are the questions of the clinical case which we have discussed in the first slide. Number 1, what do you understand of lump in the breast? What are its common causes? Number 2, mention the anatomical basis of pudgy orange appearance of skin, retraction of nipple, and loss of mobility of the breast. Name the 3 muscles lying deep to the base of the breast. Number 4, what is the venous route of the spread of breast cancer? Number 5, what is the commonest site of the breast cancer? So these are the questions of the previous clinical case. So we shall discuss answers for these questions at the end of our lecture. Okay. Dear students, the clinico-anatomical problem, it is associated with, it is related to anatomy of the female breast. So this is the topic of our discussion today. Okay, anatomy of the female breast or mammary gland. One thing, student, I would like to tell you that during my lectures I will be asking questions, okay, to some students. Okay, randomly I will tell the roll numbers. So those students have to record their answer and send it to me. Okay, so where is the location of mammary gland? It is located in the pectoral region. Okay, it is located in the pectoral region. That's why the pectoral region has been taught. If you remember my previous lecture, roll number 99, tell me what are the muscles of pectoral region. Okay, record your answer and send it to me. Okay, so pectoral region is a region of the front of the chest. This is known as the pectoral region. This is in males, this is in females, and this is in males. So mammary gland or the breast, it lies in this region. Okay, mammary gland or the breast, it lies in the pectoral region. Now the breast, it is present bilaterally in both sexes. Okay, this is a male breast and this is a female breast. So it is present in both males and females bilaterally in the pectoral region. In the males and immature female, the breasts are rudimentary. In the males and immature females, the breasts are rudimentary. That means they are not well developed. So in both sexes, like in female and male, so the nipple is small. So this is, I am talking the female and male when they are immature. Okay, they have small nipple, but areola, the skin around the nipple, is fully formed. The areola is fully formed in both males and females. Okay, but the nipple is small in immature females. Okay, now after puberty, the female breasts are well developed. As you can see in this picture, after puberty, the female breasts are well developed, and you see further more development during pregnancy, right? They are more marked during pregnancy and during lactation. Okay, so this is in case of females. Now the shape varies in adult female, which may be, the hemispherical or conical or pendulous. The shape of the female breast may vary. So it may be hemispherical, like half sphere, conical or pendulous. But the base of the breast, the circular base, this is the circular base of the breast, it remains fairly constant. Okay, it remains fairly constant. Okay, in this slide what you have learned, that the pectoral region contains mammary gland. Okay, in immature males and females, you find there is a nipple, right? Areola is fully formed. After puberty, the female breasts are fully developed. Okay, and they develop more during pregnancy and lactation. So the shape of the female breast may vary. It may be hemispherical or conical or pendulous. Okay, but the base of the breast, the base of the female breast, it remains constant. Okay, breast or the mammary gland is a modified sweat gland. This is very, very important. In the exams also, practical exams, they will ask you which type of gland it is. So the breast is a modified sweat gland, right? And it lies in the superficial fascia of the pectoral region. Remember that. It lies in the pectoral region. I have told you in the previous slide where exactly in the pectoral region, that is in the superficial fascia of the pectoral region, and it is a modified sweat gland. So the breast is divided into 4 quadrants, that is the upper medial, lower medial, upper lateral and lower lateral. A small extension of the upper lateral quadrant is known as axillary tail of Spence. You can see here, it lies in the axilla. Okay, this is important in case of the lymphatic drainage of the mammary gland. Okay, so based on the lymphatic drainage, we divide the breast into 4 quadrants. What are they? upper medial, lower medial, upper lateral or lower lateral. You can say upper outer quadrant, lower outer quadrant, upper inner quadrant or lower inner quadrant of the breast. So a small extension from the upper lateral quadrant or the upper outer quadrant of the breast is known as axillary tail of Spence and lies in the axilla. Let us discuss about extent of the female breast. It extends vertically from 2nd to 6th ribs. The mammary gland, it extends vertically from 2nd to 6th ribs in the mid clavicular line. In the mid clavicular line, let's say this is the clavicle. So in the mid clavicular line, it extends from 2nd to 6th ribs, and horizontally from the lateral border of sternum, horizontally from the lateral border of sternum up to the mid axillary line, So this is the extent of the female breast, especially the base of the female breast, vertically from 2nd to 6th rib along the mid clavicular line, and horizontally from lateral border of sternum up to the mid axillary line. Roll number 8, tell me the extent of breast and what are the quadrants of the breast. Okay, record your answers and send it to me. Now what is this mammary bed? Is nothing but the deep relations of the mammary gland or the mammary bed. It comes as a very short notes in the exam. So the base of the gland, the base of the mammary gland, it rests upon some structures over here. Okay, the base of the gland, it rests upon following structures which are covered by the deep fascia. Number 1, we have pectoralis major muscle. Can you see here? This is pectoralis major. So in medial 2/3, pectoralis major in medial 2/3, serratus anterior in lateral 1/3. This you can see here, digitations of the serratus anterior in lateral 1/3. Then external oblique aponeurosis, in the infero-medial quadrant, that is lower medial quadrant. So this aponeurosis of the external oblique separates breast from the rectus abdominis muscle, over here. So this aponeurosis of the external oblique at the infero-medial quadrant of the breast, it separates breast from the rectus abdominis muscle. Rectus abdominis, it is a straight muscle present in the anterior abdominal wall. Okay, so demarcation between the breast and the rectus abdominis is this aponeurosis of the external oblique muscle, that you should remember. So these are the structures forming the mammary bed. So pectoralis major in the medial 2/3, digitations of the serratus anterior in lateral 1/3, external oblique at the infero-medial quadrant, it separates the breast from the rectus abdominis muscle. So deep projections from the glandular parenchyma of the mammary gland. So deep projections from the parenchyma of the gland, sometimes they penetrate the superficial part of the pectoralis major. Okay, that you should remember. So deep projections from the glandular parenchyma. Okay, so those projections sometimes they penetrate the superficial part of the pectoralis major muscle. So this is about the mammary bed. Roll number 95, tell me about the structures forming the mammary bed. Okay, record your answer and send it to me. The next slide is retromammary space. What is this retromammary memory space. So it basically, this space, it contains loose connective tissue. A loose connective tissue intervenes between the base of the mammary gland and deep fascia covering the structures which are forming the memory bed. So what are the structures forming the memory bed? Pectoralis major, serratus anterior. So between the base of the gland, as you can see in this picture, and structures covering the fascia covering the memory bed. Okay, so in between these two you have a space which is known as retromemory space. It contains loose connective tissue. Okay, in this, the blue area, you can see this is the retromemory space. So this is actually between the base of the mammary gland, or you can say structures forming the memory bed, that is pectoralis major. So between these two you have a space which is known as retromemory space. Now why there is a space? Now because of this space, the normal breast in female can be moved freely over the pectoralis major muscle. This is the pectoralis major. So because of the presence of retromemory space, the normal breast of the female, it moves freely over the pectoralis major muscle. And in the invasion of breast carcinoma, this gland is fixed to the pectoralis major. So that is the significance of this retromemory space. Roll number 139, tell me what is retromemory space. Okay, record your answers and send it to me. Now let us discuss about axillary tail of Spence. Right, sometimes, you know, a tail like projection from the upper and outer quadrant of the breast, it enters the axilla. As you can see, this is a picture of the female breast, where you can see this elevation here. This is actually the axillary tail of Spence from the upper and outer quadrant, or the upper lateral quadrant of the breast. So this axillary tail of Spence enters the axilla through an opening. So you can see here, this is an opening. This opening is known as foramina flanger. So actually this opening, it is present in the axillary fascia. Okay, the foramina flanger, it is present in the axillary fascia. So through this foramen, the axillary tail of Spence, it enters the axilla. Okay, so this process, the axillary tail of Spence, it comes in contact with the anterior group of axillary lymph nodes. Okay, so it comes in contact with the anterior group of axillary lymph nodes. So when they are enlarged, it may be mistaken for lipoma. Okay, so that you remember. So this is about the axillary tail of Spence. So it arises from the upper lateral quadrant of the breast. It enters the axilla through a foramen which is known as foramina flanger. It is present in the axillary fascia. Now what is the symmetry of the breast? Usually the breasts of both sides, they are equal in size. So if one is larger and lower, it is usually the right breast, but often they are equal in size. Let us discuss about features in the skin overlaying the mammary gland or the breast. Okay, number one, we have the nipple. Nipple, it is a conical projection, or you can say it is a cylindrical projection Nipple is a conical or cylindrical projection below the center of the breast. Okay, it is exactly in the center of the breast, located at the level of fourth intercostal space. Okay, it is located in the fourth intercostal space. Intercostal space is nothing but the space between two ribs. Costa means rib. So in the fourth intercostal space you have the location of the nipple. 10 centimeters from the midline. 10 centimeters from the midline. So this nipple, it is pierced by 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts, as you can see in this image. So the nipple of the female breast, it is pierced by 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts, and it contains longitudinally disposed smooth muscles. Okay, the circular and longitudinal smooth muscles. So the circular muscle, it erects the nipple for suckling, whereas the longitudinal muscle, it retracts the nipple. So there are 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts. Okay, and contains circular and longitudinal smooth muscles. What is the function of this circular and longitudinal smooth muscle? The circular muscle, it is helpful for the erection of the nipple for suckling, and longitudinal muscle, it is responsible for the retraction of the nipple. The skin surrounding the base of the nipple, it is pigmented, as you can see in this picture. The skin surrounding the base of the nipple is pigmented and forms a circular area which is known as the areola. We will discuss about areola in detail. So this slide is for the nipple. So this nipple, it possesses rich nerve supply. Okay, and it provides with the sensory receptors for suckling of the milk. Okay, so that is about the nipple of the female breast. Let us discuss about the areola of the skin of the mammary gland. Now it is a pigmented circular area of the skin. As you can see here, it is a pigmented circular area of the skin around the base of the nipple. Around the base of the nipple you have a pigmented circular area of the skin which is known as the areola. So the pigmentation, it is darkened after first pregnancy. Now the outer margin of the areola, as you can see here, the outer margin of the areola, it contains number of modified sebaceous glands, right? So the outer margin of the areola contains number of modified sebaceous glands which are enlarged during pregnancy and lactation. And these enlarged sebaceous glands are known as the tubercles of Montgomery. The tubercles of Montgomery. So oily secretions of these glands, they provide protective lubricant during lactation. Okay, so besides these, the gland also contains sweat glands and accessory mammary glands. Now the skin of the areola, it is devoid of the skin of the areola and nipple. It is devoid of, it does not contain hair and subcutaneous fat. Now beneath the areola, each lactiferous duct, so these are the lactiferous ducts. So beneath the areola, each lactiferous duct is dilated to form lactiferous sinus. So this is the lactiferous sinus. Beneath the areola, each lactiferous duct is dilated to form lactiferous sinus. So this is before passing through the nipple. A subareolar lymphatic plexus of Sappey, S-A-P-P-E-Y. Subareolar, sub means below the areola, beneath the areola. A lymphatic plexus of Sappey, S-A-P-P-E-Y, collects lymph from the areola and the nipple. That means the areola and the nipple, they are drained by lymphatic plexus of Sappey, that you should remember. So in this slide, the two things are important. The tubercles of Montgomery, okay, which produces oily secretions, okay, to provide protective lubricant during lactation. And one more thing, subareolar you can say, or subareolar lymphatic plexus of Sappey, which collects lymph from the areola and the nipple. So this is about the areola of the breast. Let us discuss about the structure of the breast. The breast is made up of three components. Number one, glandular tissue. Number two, fibrous tissue or the fibrous stroma. Number three, interlobar fatty tissue. Okay, we will discuss in detail about these three components of the structure of the breast. Okay, so the glandular tissue, it is made up of tubulo-alveolar type of glands arranged in lobes. As you can see here, 1, 2, 3 lobes. In this diagram we can make out 3 lobes. So within the lobes you have this tubulo-alveolar structure. What is the meaning of tubulo-alveolar? That means they start as branched tubular gland. They start as branched tubular gland, and further branching you see, and eventually they terminate in the alveoli. That is the meaning of tubulo-alveolar type. Tubulo-alveolar type of gland is nothing but starting out as a branched tubular gland and branching further to terminate in the alveoli or the acini. That is the meaning of tubulo-alveolar type of gland. Okay. Then next we have the fibrous tissue. The fibrous tissue, it supports the lobes like we have here 1, 2 and 3. So there are 15 to 20 lobes. This we will discuss in detail about the lobes of the mammary gland. Okay, but this fibrous tissue or the fibrous stroma, it supports the lobes and forms number of septa. It forms number of septa which anchor the parenchyma to the overlying skin. Okay, so these number of septa we can make out here. These are the number of septa which anchor the parenchyma of the gland to the overlying skin. And the underlying pectoral fascia. So these fibrous bands, these septa are the fibrous bands, they are known as suspensory ligament of Cooper. Suspensory ligaments of Cooper. So these are all green color lines we can see here. These are nothing but the septa which anchor the parenchyma of the gland to the overlying skin and the underlying pectoral fascia, right? And they support the lobes of the mammary gland. So these septa are the fibrous bands. They are known as suspensory ligaments of Cooper. Suspensory ligaments of Cooper. The growth of malignant cells in case of breast cancer, they may extend along these ligaments. Malignant cells, they may extend along these cells and produce dimples of the overlying skin. Okay, so malignant cells, they may extend through these septa and they produce dimples of the overlying skin, or sometimes you see the fixation of the lump to the pectoralis major muscle. Okay, so this is about the fibrous tissue or the fibrous stroma, which has the suspensory ligaments of Cooper. They support the so-called lobes present in the mammary gland. Then next we have interlobar fatty tissue. Interlobar fatty tissue. So what is the function of interlobar fatty tissue? It makes the organ rounded. However, the fat is absent beneath the areola and the nipple. The fat is absent beneath the nipple and the areola, which is surrounding the nipple. So that is a function of interlobar fatty tissue. So in the next slide, we are going to discuss in detail about this one, the glandular tissue. Okay. Let us discuss about the glandular tissue or the parenchyma. It consists of 15 to 20 pyramidal lobes. We can see here 1, 2, 3. So like this you have 15 to 20 pyramidal lobes. Each lobe, it is drained by separate lactiferous duct. So each lobe is having a separate lactiferous duct. This you have to remember. This is important. So how many lobes are there? There are 15 to 20 lobes in the glandular tissue. Okay, and each lobe, it is drained by separate lactiferous duct. Now these lobes, they are arranged in radiating manner. Okay, they are arranged in radiating manner and they converge. You can see here, they converge towards the areola. Okay, they converge towards the areola, where each duct dilates to form lactiferous sinus. So all of you see, this is the lactiferous sinus. So the lobes are arranged in radiating manner, right, and they converge towards the areola, where each duct dilates to form the lactiferous sinus. So we can make out here, these are the lactiferous sinuses. Okay, so this lactiferous sinus, it acts as reservoir of milk. Okay, it acts as reservoir of milk, and finally each lactiferous duct open onto the nipple. Okay, finally each lactiferous duct open onto the nipple. So each duct, that means each lactiferous duct drains a segmental system of smaller ducts and the lobules. Okay, each lactiferous duct, let's say this is one lactiferous duct. So each lactiferous duct drains a segmental system of smaller ducts and the lobules. Smaller ducts and the lobules. So now each segmental duct, it divides into number of terminal ducts, right? So they form the so-called grape-like clusters. Grape-like clusters. So the area of the breast parenchyma drained by one terminal duct, it is known as the lobule. It is known as the lobule. Okay. Therefore, each lobe or the segment, each lobe or the segment of the breast connected to the individual lactiferous duct. Okay, connected to the individual lactiferous duct, they contain numerous lobules. Okay, contains the numerous lobules. So each lobe is having, so each lobule, each lobe, right, or the segment of the breast connected to the individual lactiferous ducts, it contains numerous lobules. Okay, there are numerous lobules in each lobe. Okay, the lobules are, these lobules are just surrounded by, the lobules are surrounded by a breast specific hormonal responsive fibrofatty stroma. The lobules are surrounded by breast specific hormonal responsive fibrofatty stroma along with the vessels and nerves. Okay, so the lobules and their acini, so you can make out the acini over here. The lobules and the acini, they gain their functional maturity only with the onset of pregnancy. This you should remember. Okay, the lobules and their acini, they gain their functional maturity only with the onset of pregnancy. Okay, now the ducts, we say the lactiferous ducts. Okay, let's say this is the lactiferous duct. So these lactiferous ducts, they contain myoepithelial cells. Myoepithelial cells, these are microscopic. Okay, lactiferous ducts contain myoepithelial cells which are resting on the basal lamina. So that can be seen in the microscope, the myoepithelial cells. Myo means muscle, epithelium means the lining of the lactiferous duct. So the larger ducts, they are lined by columnar epithelium, and usually the carcinoma of the breast, it arises from the larger ductule epithelium. Okay, so the carcinoma of the breast usually arises from the larger ducts. So whereas the smaller ducts, they are the sites of benign fibroadenoma, that you have to remember. So in the next slide, we are going to see the structural differences of the mammary gland. Okay, so this is about the glandular tissue or the parenchyma of the mammary gland. What you have to remember in this slide is that there are 15 to 20 pyramidal lobes. Okay, each lobe is drained by separate lactiferous ducts. Okay, and you have there is a dilated area for each duct which is known as the lactiferous sinus. It may act as a reservoir of milk. Okay, then each duct, the lactiferous duct, it drains a segmental system of smaller ducts. Okay, there is a segmental system of the smaller ducts and the lobules. So each segmental duct divides into number of terminal ducts. So you should remember. So let's say this is a terminal segmental duct. So it divides into number of segmental the terminal ducts. Okay, so each segmental duct divides into number of terminal ducts, and you see there are pouches of the secretory glands which are in the form of grape-like clusters. Okay, grape-like clusters. So the area of the breast parenchyma drained by one terminal duct, this is known as the lobule. Okay, the lobule. So these are the things which you have to remember in case of the glandular tissue. Okay, let us discuss about structural differentiation of mammary gland. Okay, the mammary gland varies with age, pregnancy and lactation. So from birth to pre-pubertal life, the presence of lactiferous ducts without alveoli, you see, from birth to pre-pubertal life. Then at puberty, ducts undergo branching. Okay, the ducts undergo branching, which we have seen in the previous slide, the branching pattern of the ducts. And peripheral branches, they form solid spheroidal masses of cells which are the precursors of the alveoli. Okay, they are the precursors of the alveoli. So this is at puberty. So you see that the ducts are undergoing branching, and the branches, they form the solid spheroidal masses of cells which are precursors of the alveoli, or the acinar cells of the mammary gland. Then in the pregnancy, during this period, you see further proliferation and the epithelial growth of the terminal ducts and the lobules. So you see also increase in the number of alveoli per lobule. Increase in the number of alveoli per lobule, and after about 6 months of pregnancy, the breast expands further. Okay, due to increased blood flow and secretion of the colostrum. Okay, this is after about 6 months of pregnancy. The breast expands due to increase in blood flow to the breast and the secretion of colostrum. So the weight of each breast, it reaches about 400 grams, and the secreting alveoli, or the acinar cells, they enlarge because of the accumulation of the milk. So the milk which is secreted in the later part of the pregnancy, during the 3rd trimester, that is a few days, or you can say a few days after parturition, delivery. So before or few days after parturition or the delivery, so that is known as the colostrum, the milk. Okay, which is poor in nutrients and contains fat globules. They are also known as the colostrum corpuscles. Colostrum corpuscles. So then the colostrum is not a true milk, remember. So what is colostrum? it is secreted, milk which is secreted in later part of the pregnancy and a few days after parturition. That is known as the colostrum, we say. Okay, so which is poor in nutrients, and it contains fat globules which are known as the colostrum corpuscles. Then the true milk secretion starts after a few days of parturition, that is with the suckling of newborn. Okay, that is true milk, we say. Then coming to the lactation. During lactation, the alveoli, they are lined by single layer of epithelium. So we can see here, these are the epithelial cells, right? Then these epithelial cells, they are separated from the basement membrane by this myoepithelial cells. You can see here, these are the myoepithelial cells. So between the epithelial cells and the myoepithelial cells, you have a basement membrane. Okay, so the epithelium may be cuboidal in resting condition. So in resting condition means when the milk is not getting secreted, the lining epithelium will be cuboidal. During lactation, the epithelium changes to columnar, okay, where you see the tall columnar cells. So if you see the ultra structure of the alveoli or the acinar cells, so you find cytoplasm which contains rough endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, the ribosomes, lysosomes, and the Golgi apparatus. Okay, so there are protein vacuoles. So all these are present in the cytoplasm of a alveolar cell. Okay, now after lactation, this is during lactation, right? Then after lactation, so when the lactation stops, that might be usually 6 months after birth, the alveoli shrink, the remaining milk is absorbed and the glandular tissue returns to the resting condition. Okay, so this you have to remember. So these are the structural variations or differentiations of the mammary gland from birth to pre-pubertal life, then at puberty, so in pregnancy and during lactation, and after lactation, when the lactation stops, that is usually after 6 months after birth, the alveoli shrink and the remaining milk is absorbed and the glandular tissue returns to the resting condition. So then there are hormones acting on glandular tissue. You have estrogen. So that estrogen, it stimulates the growth and branching of the ducts. Okay, then you have progesterone. It is responsible for the formation of the alveoli, that is at the end of the branching ducts. Then the prolactin and growth hormone, they maintain the lactation. Then we have one more hormone, the oxytocin, help in milk ejection, that is initiated by suckling reflex. Then we have maternal estrogen. The circulating neonates of both sexes through the placenta, this stimulates the ductal epithelium of their breasts to secrete a fat-free fluid in the first 1 or 2 weeks after birth. So the circulating in neonates of both sexes through the placenta stimulates the ductal epithelium of their breast to secrete a fat-free fluid in the first 1 or 2 weeks after birth. This is known as witch's milk. Okay, WITCH', witch's milk, we say. So that is due to the maternal estrogen. Okay, so these are the hormones acting on the glandular tissue. So far we have discussed about the introduction to the mammary gland, and we have seen the extent of the mammary gland, what is mammary bed, what is retromammary space, what is axillary tail of Spence, what are the quadrants of the mammary gland, what is the features of the skin of the breast, the nipple, and regarding areola, and then regarding the structure of the breast we discussed under the various headings like glandular tissue, fibrous tissue or the fibrous stroma, then interlobar fatty tissue we have discussed. So in detail we discussed about glandular tissue. Okay, and at last we have discussed about the structural differentiation of the mammary gland from birth to pre-pubertal life, at puberty, in pregnancy, during lactation and after lactation. And finally we also discussed about hormones acting on the glandular tissue. So this is only the first part of the lecture. Okay, mammary gland is not completed yet, so there are so many things to discuss that I will cover in the next lecture. Okay, we will continue our lecture with the we have the blood supply of the mammary gland, which is very important, and we have the lymphatic drainage, and we also need to study about the development of the breast. Okay, prenatal development of the breast and the congenital anomalies of the mammary gland. So all these are things, and we need to be discussed. Okay, so I will cover those things in my next lecture. Okay, this is mammary gland part 1. So we have discussed till the structure of the breast. Thank you so much, students, and if you have any sort of doubt, you can text me. I am at your I'm always available to answer your queries, whatever you have. Okay, so again I am telling you, this topic is very important from examination point of view, from clinical point of view, and for anything in the medicine, the mammary gland is very important. So that's why I'm covering this topic in 2 lectures. Okay, go through this completely, read from the textbook, also listen to my voice. Okay, there are many slides where I am not giving the matter. Okay, I am just doing voiceover. So from my lecture only you can get the notes. Okay, you can refer books also. Go through this chapter till the structure of the mammary gland. Okay, the remaining part of the mammary gland will be discussed in the next lecture. Probably I will be uploading the second part in the maybe on Saturday I will be uploading. Okay, thank you very much.